Hi guys, thank y'all so much for joining me again. This is my 16th video and the outpouring, the the responses have been wonderful. Thank y'all so much for the support y'all have been giving me and the feedback. I've been really enjoying it. As always, share these videos. I really want to bring awareness to dealing with trauma, dealing with abuse. And the only way to do that is to share these videos. Just keep sharing and spreading the word. Today, I want to revisit on something that I've talked about in a previous video when I talked about yourself time to heal. Well, I'm going to revisit that because yesterday at my therapy session, I realized that I need to revisit that with myself too. Because, as y'all know, it's been a year out now from when I called the police on him and he was removed from my home. And on the 21st of this month, it'll be 6 months that I've been divorced. And I personally feel like I should be farther along in my healing. I mean, nobody else has laid those expectations on me, but I have. Because I feel like I shouldn't be reacting to triggers that I have, and that I should be further along and stronger. And quite honestly, I'm just tired of dealing with it. It gets tiresome. I mean, healing from trauma, that is not for the faint of heart. Totally worth it. I would go through all of what I've gone through this past year and then some all over again to even get to where I am now. Even though I sometimes wrestle with the thought that I should be farther, when no, I'm right where I need to be. Um, my therapist brought up a very good point, as he usually does, that am I better than God? Well, no, obviously I'm not. And so God is the one in control, right? Well, yeah, God is in control. So if I was supposed to be further along in my healing, wouldn't I be? Yeah, that got me. Because God is in control. He handles all of that. So if He wanted me farther along in my healing, then I would be. So I'm right where I need to be. I'm right where I should be. I'm right where God intended me to be. And my beautiful daughter came up with some wonderful pearl of wisdom. She said, Mama, I know you feel like you've wasted this past year having, focusing on him, dealing with him, my ex. But she said, it's not been a waste because you've been spending this year healing. And I'm like, okay. My 20-something-year-old daughter came up with beautiful wisdom because she's right. This whole year, I haven't been focusing on my ex. I mean, I've been dealing with things pertaining to him, but I've been focusing on me and being healed. And then my sister-in-law, whom is the strongest shoulder I have to cry on. Well, not the strongest, but she's one of the wonderful shoulders I have to cry on. She said that instead of looking at it as it's been a year, you should be farther, think about it this way: it's only been a year. And I told my therapist that, and he's like, yeah, I agree. Because it's only been a year. And dealing with 2020 alone, I mean, in the midst of COVID and all of this kind of stuff, I'm dealing with trauma and healing from the trauma that I've endured for 40 some years. Because not only my ex, but my father and other past traumas that I've dealt with between my father and my ex. So my therapist is like, you know, let's say 40 years of trauma with different people, you're not going to get over that overnight. It's going to take more than 1 year. Well, as impatient as I get, he's got a point, and he's right. It's gonna take way longer than a year. I mean, like I just said, I didn't have just 1 year of trauma. It would have been nice if I did, but I was traumatized for over 40 years. Now, of course, it won't take 40 years to heal, but I still need to give myself time and give myself grace. And that's the hardest thing, because I have way higher expectations of myself than I do anybody else. If I was talking to somebody else that was going through what I had gone through, or that I'm going through now, and I would tell them, give yourself grace, cut yourself some slack. You've come a long way in such a short time. You're going to get there. And there's always going to be new things coming up, and you're going to have to deal with them. But you'll get there. But I need to say that to myself, because I'm got too high expectations of myself. And that's typical, because a lot of people have that. They expect higher of themselves than they do of others. I mean, y'all, I've gone through all this trauma, all this healing, wrapped around COVID. So when I think about it that way, I've come pretty far. But that also doesn't mean that just because I may have come far and someone else who's been in a similar situation and hasn't come as far this much time out, that they've weaker or less. No. We all heal at our own rates. Some heal faster than others, some slower than others. And then there's also ebbs and flows where you go through such wonderful progress, you're like sprinting. You're doing great, doing wonderful, stepping each step, then bam, you hit a wall and you hit a plateau. And you feel like you're not improving at all. And that's kind of where I've been. And then something wonderful happened. This week I got triggered twice. Now, a little background history on that. In the past, when I've been triggered by a memory or something, I would just start, I'd go into a tailspin. I'd start crying, and my breathing would get heavy, my body would tense up. I'd go into fight or flight mode. Because my body would be confused and think, okay, she's in that trauma. But twice this week, this past week, something triggered me. First, it was a TV show, and then it was some pictures I saw on Instagram of an account I'm following. Both times, I was actually able to get myself back in focus and de-escalate myself within 2 minutes. That's a victory. And that has helped me feel so much better, because there was a time that I could not have. If I'd have been able to de-escalate myself, it would have been way longer than just 2 minutes. Now, a little caveat with that, because I was able to de-escalate myself and reminding myself, okay, this is not relevant now. It's part of my past. My past is no longer relevant. And he is not part of my future. So this is not reality. And I kept saying that to myself, and I calmed myself down within 2 minutes. But I was still kind of having to settle down even more after that. So it's not something where it's like, happened, boom, I'm done, I'm calm, okay, move on. No. It took a little, about 5 or so minutes to calm myself completely. But it only took less than 2 minutes to de-escalate. Going from here to here in 2 minutes or less. That's a milestone. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do, is to take those victories, no matter how small the victory is. Even if you took 5 minutes to de-escalate, think about the last time you had to de-escalate. How long did that take? And if it took 7 minutes that time, but then 5 minutes the next time, that's a victory. Because it's taken less time for you to de-escalate. And it doesn't happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight. There's still things that are going to trigger me that is going to take more than just 2 minutes. I know that. But I'm going to focus on that, on those victories. And I'm not going to let those voices in my head, which, aren't from God, that say, oh yeah, you should be further along. You should be, bam, like that. You triggered and you go down immediately. Well, to be honest, I don't know that anybody's like that. Yeah, I guess at a point to where you can de-escalate within a few seconds even. Or less than a minute at least. But it's not going to happen overnight. It'll happen, but not overnight. And that's where you got to cut yourself a break. And celebrate all the positives. Even if you're having all of these negatives, and then you have a positive, and then a negative again, there's still that positive. Focus on that positive. Grab onto it. And say, okay, this happened, great. What did I do, or what were the circumstances that enabled me to handle it great? And think it through, and go from there, and come up with a plan to help yourself in the future. Because That's what I'm doing. My de-escalation process is no, that the past is not relevant. That is part of my past. It no longer exists. I am now in the future. He is not a part of my future, never will be. So I am moving on. This is not reality as it is now. And I keep repeating that to myself. And that's what helped de-escalate me, is reminding myself that's part of my past. It no longer exists. He is definitely not going to be a part of my future. So that's not relevant. That is no longer part of my present. And that's what I'm suggesting with you. Everybody has to do what's best for them. Everybody de-escalates differently. It just depends on their situation. Each situation is different. Even amongst similar trauma, it's still different. So, but I'm telling you what works for me is reminding myself that the past does not exist any longer. It's irrelevant. And whatever caused the trigger, that's in the past as well. So it's no longer relevant for today. And it's definitely not part of the future. And I want to encourage you to stay focused on healing. I know it's hard. Oh, believe me, I know it's hard. Because I'm like the past couple of weeks, I've just been getting so tired of dealing with the healing. And lately I've been getting memories that are starting to trigger me. Kind of new memories. And so it's been a challenge to work through them. But I'm getting through them. And I'm taking care of me. I'm starting to eat healthy, keep track of what I'm eating. I even walked a couple of times last week. My shins are yelling at me now, but, I'll get through it. But I'm taking care of me. And also, I'm looking into taking some short-term disability at work so I can get my mind back in order, because it's been a struggle. My stats at work have been struggling. They've been really good. I've been so blessed with a job that really, really helps and is really helpful in caring, and a team leader that actually, who's been through his own stuff, so he understands roughly of what I've been through or what I'm going through. And God placed me in that for sure. But it's just been hard to focus and get really doing my job the way they need me to do my job. So I'm looking into taking some time, short-term disability, about a month off, so I can get my head back in order, my mind back in order, decide what I want to do with things, because y'all, I got to get this foundation going. It's been on my heart, and I really got to get it rolling. And with everything going on, focusing on healing, trying to focus on work, and doing all kinds of other things, because quite honestly, I've been trying to stay so busy because I don't want to focus on the trauma. I don't want to focus, I don't want to deal with it, so I'm keeping myself busy. And that's not good either, because there's a such thing as too busy. Because you can't push that trauma down, because it only stays down so long. Just like when you got a trash can, you don't feel like emptying it. So you just push the trash down. Push the trash down. Well, eventually you push the trash down and it pops back up because there's no more room. And it says, you're dealing with it now. Well, that's kind of what's starting to happen, is because I've kind of pushed it down. I've only let myself deal with a little bit at a time. And because I haven't dealt with it fully, I've been keeping myself so busy, it's starting to catch up to me. So I'm looking to take some time off from work. I'm not going to take time off for the videos, because y'all, these videos have been so therapeutic for me. They have been just as therapeutic for me as they hopefully have been helping you guys. And, people say I'm so strong for doing this, and I guess, but truth is, it's helping me every bit as much as I want to help you guys, because it's enabling me to process it. It's also such a tremendous help to know that I'm not alone, because in just doing these videos alone, I've discovered all kinds of people, not all kinds, but a few, that have gone through what is similar to what I went through. And though I would not wish what I went through on my worst enemy, it's just nice to know that I'm not alone. It's nice to know that I'm not, what's the word? Isolated. That I'm not isolated, that I'm not alone, that there are others out there that, in addition to wanting to be there for me, that they're there, that has gone through similar. So what I've gone through is not weird. It's not strange or stupid or anything else, because of course all of these words have invaded my mind. I can't tell you how many times. And I'm saying this because I know these words have invaded others as well. And I want to do away with those words. And I want you to realize that where you are in your healing process, wherever you are in the healing process, you're where you need to be. And just because this person is farther along and you're not, doesn't mean that you're progressing slow. And to be quite honest, what you perceive as where that person is emotionally, they may not be. They may just be painting on a smile and putting on a good face for out in the public. Because to be honest, I've done that many times. I did that while I was being abused. Me and my ex would get into a horrible yelling match at home, and we're going somewhere. We would be in our vehicle, and he would be yelling at me, screaming at me, calling me every kind of horrible name that you could ever think of. Um, Names that is highly unlikely that I'll ever repeat on here. Um, and then the minute we would get to where we were going, it would be like I'd have a smile on my face, and pretend like nothing was wrong. All the while, my ex is putting his arm around me like nothing happened, and I would cringe inside because I couldn't stand his touch. We would just in the throes of an argument, and then he wants to be all lovey-dovey. But that's how he was, because he's a chameleon. I mean, he could go 0 to 60 in 1.5 seconds. He could go from being so high escalated in anger to 0 and then back up again when we would leave wherever we were, get in the truck, and be 100 yards out, and bam, it would start all over again as if we had never paused the fight. And all the while, nobody knew anything because I kept a smile on my face. And the point I'm trying to make is, just because someone may appear to be far along in their healing doesn't mean they are. It could be just a smile that they put on their face because they don't want to talk about it, because it hurts so bad to talk about it that they'd rather put on a fake smile and pretend that all is right with the world rather than talk about it and have to face that hurt. 'Cause y'all, I told my therapist yesterday that I'm just so tired of dealing with this, because I want to be done with it. I want to put a knife through the whole thing, cut it up, chop it, dice it, puree it, and be done with it, and have it completely gone. But it doesn't work like that. And it hurts to deal with it. It cuts to the bone to have to deal with it. And there are some days that I just don't want to deal with anything. I would rather just curl up in my bed, pull a blanket over my head, and pretend the world doesn't exist. But that's not how healing happens. So celebrate the victories. Give yourself an unlimited amount of grace. And be happy where you are in your healing. But more importantly, let yourself heal. Face this trauma and meet it head on, because it's way better to meet it head on, to just barrel through it, deal with it, even through all the hurt and pain and turmoil, because then when you come out on the other side, you come out stronger and better than what you were when you started the journey. And suppressing it doesn't help. It will come up eventually. I know that firsthand, because you can only suppress it for so long before it pops up and says, here I am. So you guys have a good week. Again, y'all haven't been sending me any questions. I really want to do a Q&A video. So start sending me that questions either in the comments or email me at godswoman.ph@gmail.com. And if I get enough questions, I'll have a Q&A video. You guys have a good week. Stay blessed. God bless.